Record. Okay. So last class, this is kind of where we left off, right? We had left off making this API call, right? Let me zoom in a little bit. And the API call was to deck of cards. And for deck of cards, I had to spin up a deck, grab that deck ID, and then we could pull the cards, right? Now, I pulled the cards just to show you like how quickly. I think we had like 1,000 requests. If I pull this card, I only have 14 cards left in my deck. And once I run out of those 14 cards, I have to create a new deck of cards, okay? So there's a good chance during this demo while you're opening it up, several times refreshing the page, I'm gonna run out of cards. So what we did was I did a set timeout to show you the pause mechanism so we could see loading. So if I do refresh this, I might have already ran out of cards. Did I? Loading, yeah, there was a little loading moment there, and then the card. And that was part of the set timeout. The set timeout was just meant to emulate a longer delay in trying to get the cards. It happens relatively fast. And then we made the API call, right? We made a fetch call, fetch, and then there's two then statements. Fetch returns a promise, and just think of when you think of promise, if this thing works, then I will do the other thing, right? That's how I remember promises. And the first then is meant to convert the stringified JSON, right? It comes back as a string, and we need to parse that. So the two things that I showed you last class was JSON.stringify and JSON.parse, right? We parsed the string, we converted it over, and that's what this is doing. This is parsing the data that's been stringified on the way over. And then the second then deals with the data, right? We got data, we need the data, and so I'm calling it data, but you can call it whatever you want. You could call it response again if you want. I just don't like using the same word twice in both. And then we get the data, and then I set state. I called state. I added the deck of cards there. It's an array. That's what I put in there. I changed is loading from true to false. And then I just did in the callback here to confirm that we had the image, at least the image of the card, right? Cool. Ran it, and then we added some conditional logic here. So conditional logic, right? And that conditional logic was for if we're loading, if loading is true, that means we're still making the call. And what do you want to do? Like, what should the user see while you're making the call, right? You see this on a lot of websites. You go to websites and there's like sort of little circles that are going and you're waiting for the thing, like a loading screen. Ours is just this cheesy word loading, right? But we could have made a beautiful animated, circle and, jazz it up as much as you want. And so this right here checks to see if it's loading. If it's loading, it returns a loading div, right? And if I change this time, I wonder did I run out of cards? Loading for 3 seconds, 2, 3, I ran out of cards. See, I got no more cards. I knew it was going to happen. And so what would have happened, right, if that loaded, if this isn't true, then it runs over here, okay? So we can have multiple return statements, but in any function like this is our function, renders our function, right? Any JavaScript function can use the return keyword one single time, una vez, only once. You can't use it more than that. Anything after a return statement doesn't get run, doesn't get evaluated. The function just kind of ends itself. It's like, oh, you want to stop me and give back to the person that just asked? All right, cool. So this never gets executed. So you don't need it in the else. I didn't have to do else, do the other thing, right? I didn't have to do that. It's kind of redundant because one return statement is allowed. And so that's how we did this, right? If I wanted to here, you know what? I'm just going to go back and show you how easy it is to get a new deck of cards, right? Let me see. Does the API work? Oh, it's not that. I think it's that. Deck of cards. If I go here, the first thing is to shuffle. So watch, I'm going to shuffle a deck, but instead of one, I'm going to ask for, watch this, if I ask for 21 decks of cards, I've hit the limit because you can only ask for 20. Now, I knew that. That's why I wanted to show you. They only allow you to create 20 decks. So I'm going to say 20, and I should get 1,040 cards. Here's my deck ID. And if I go back here, and I just replaced this little deck ID here, bloop. All right, here's my deck. I get rid of this right there. Why are you doing that to me? That, and I put that. It should work. I should get a card. Oh, no. What happened? That's crazy. I see something in the background, though, so I think something's happening. I think I broke this the last time I was testing this out, too. Loading, loading, loading. And there's the card. Yay! You got the card. APIs. All right. So now you see just the basic idea of the API call, right? Nothing too crazy. If you haven't used Fetch before, really easy. Awesome. Also, I had shown you additional, or there were a few other APIs here. Now, usually when I do this particular exercise, the one that we're looking at right now, it's more so for people that haven't worked with an object and need to parse through an object to get to specific values that are nested deep within the object, right? How you structured the data or how the developer structured it will determine how you access or the path to. So I wasn't going to go through this, but you can always, test these things out, run fetch calls. But I have all these other, I have the deck of cards, I have Pokemon. So if I grab the Pokemon URL and I go here, I can get all of the Pokemon, or one Pokemon. Was this chlorophyll? Oh, there's a bunch of them, right? Here's Bulbasaur. Here's chlorophyll. I don't really know Pokemon, but there's a lot of them. There's like hundreds of them if you didn't know. Silver, gold, whatever. So a lot of students usually kind of play with these. They grab all these Pokemon and they go through them and they create apps with them. And I have one to show you later. But you can see the structure of the data, and there's a lot of stuff. And if you needed to get to the image, you can get to the image. Oh, you know why? Because I think I did Pokemon just 1. So if I get rid of Pokemon 1 and I get all of the Pokemon, well, there you go. I got a lot of Pokemon, right? Ivysaur, Venusaur. I feel like they're dinosaurs. Charmander. All right. So lots of these, and you can play around with them. City Bike. These are just great data sets, or not really great data sets, but they're data sets that allow you to build an app, really. Test functionality. It doesn't matter. We were playing around with random user, and random user, I can get 100 people if I want. Maybe not 100. Maybe 10 people if I want, and I can build an app that shows people's faces and their information. I could create like a pretend Tinder thing where I get 100, split them up into men and women, and pair them up. You could do whatever you want with the data. So free, right? So these are free. You can keep hitting them over and over and over again. Nobody really cares. But then our next topic is, what if I need an API, but I have to sign up for a key? And what's involved with signing up for a particular key? So using an API key is going to be the next topic. And we're going to go to Giphy. And on Giphy, we're going to get a key from Giphy, and then we'll make an API call with that, right? So I'm going to Slack out the Giphy site, because that's where we're all headed. To the great Giphy site. Okay. And I'll open it up too. Here's our Giphy site. Okay. Now for Giphy, you have to log in to get the key, right? So it's easy enough to kind of know where you would need to go to get a key. API Explorer. So if I go to API Explorer, if I log out, I think I'm going to log out. Hopefully I can log back in. It should take you to, I think, this page, right? I'm not really sure what page you're on. I mean, I was logged in, so maybe some of you logged in before. So I'm going to say get started. Let me just say get started. It should take me here, right? Everyone there? On the right spot. Maybe I select out too much there. Here. Is it this one? Let's try. I'm assuming. Is that what we see? You can just be like, yeah, that's what I see. Yeah, yeah. All right. I'm getting a yes from Ramona, so I'm going to take that as a call for everyone, that everyone's on the same page. All right. So we're here. You have to log in order to get the key. We can't just get our key. So log in to get a key. Sign up, register, whatever you do. I'm already logged in. Then I'll walk you through what it's like to request a key. I'm just going to put here, click on thumbs up when you're logged into Giphy. Okay? All right, click on the thumbs up when you're logged into Giphy. Okay, just want to make sure. I didn't say like create the key, just want to make sure everyone's on the same page when you're logged in. Okay. Quick implements. Okay. Got 7. 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12. So just 3 more, we'll be all set. And the reason why, does anyone know why or has ever had to sign up for an API key? I'm going to guess some of you might have played around with them. Why do they want you to have a key versus, you know, random user doesn't ask for a key and deck of cards doesn't ask for a key? Why are they asking for a key?
My assumption is that they want to be able to track and limit the amount of API requests that a single person can do, because their API might be a little more heavy to use compared to just serving random cards.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? I mean, in the end, you giving data away free comes at a cost, right? I am hosting servers, and I can, you know, every time you hit my servers or a million billion people hit it, that takes some processing time. And so what they want to see is like, hey, this one app that somebody just spun up out of nowhere, you know, in Columbus, Ohio, is now 1 billion people have hit it, and they're using our API, and we want some money, right? It's so popular. Giphies are the craze, and we want to get our chunk of change. We have the app. Without us, they don't have money coming in, so they don't have an app. So that's the reason why. Now you can see, I mean, I've been on the site several times testing out APIs, walking through the same process. So on this page, you want to create an app. That's really it. You just enter whatever. I'm going to say remote React class demo. That's app description, pull Giphies to test using fetch. Okay, I want to use it. We're checking this box and confirm that I've read the agreement. Yes. I only want to use the Giphy API. We're checking that I'm confirming that I've read the agreement. Oh, there we go. I can only do one. I guess API. It's been a while since I did this. Yeah, I'm going to go API. That's what I'm doing. Create a new app. Boom. There we go. That easy. Right? Now I have the key right here. Boop. Okay. Now the question is like, how do I use this thing? How do I make an API call? I have a key. I'm still not sure how I would use the key. What's the endpoint? Right? And the endpoint is just what's the URL. So I would have to go to like the API Explorer tab here. It's going to open it up in a new tab. And let's see what the endpoint is here. All right, choose an API key. Here's the request URL. Right, and it says send the request, and I suppose if I put my API key in here, right? Here's my remote API key, choose a reference, choose an endpoint, get my ID or just get a random one. Here we go. It generates this. And if I send, I get a response, right? It's telling me the data that I'm going to get back. So now I know how to use it. This is what I'm looking for, right? And I could change this up. I could say, I don't know, what's the latest trending ones? Boop. All right, whatever that means. And it's giving me like rating G. You know, we'll keep it all nice and copacetic here. So now I know, right? I don't know what this is. Maybe a Giphy API stat. I don't really know what the sticker is, so I'm going to just stick with that. Now, it says limit to 25. I wonder if I have more than one in here. So I have data type, GIF. I don't know. I'd have to browse down here. I think maybe there might be more in here. I don't know. So I'm going to go up here. I have this. I'm just going to copy that because it has my key now, right? I'm going to take this. I am going to slack out the starter code. I just spun up a new code pen for this called Giphy. It's nothing magical. We're not going to be building out anything like super duper amazing. And I'm going to take this API, right? I'm going to go back to my Giphy. Now, I'm in index right now, but I'm going to go to components, go to app. Here's app, right? And I want to make an API call. Now, the question is, like, do I want to make the call initially, like when the page loads, and have a loading page, or what else? It was either like put a placeholder for a Giphy someplace and it shows a Giphy and then we update it, or we can add a button here or a search bar. Like there's a few things. Maybe you don't have anything on the page, you just have a search bar and you allow the user to type something. Something like, I don't know, something like, let's see if I still have this, like Flickr. Like, who hasn't created one of these? Like, here's Flickr, and if I do, I don't know, dog. Look, I get dog images, right? So sometimes you don't have to show anything on the page, just a search bar. Or, I don't know, some people like cats, you know, whatever. They're pretty adorable. Two of the same cats. Oh, look at that, that's wild. For us, we're going to make the assumption that we want to make the query on page load. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I want you to know where to do that. Now, in order to make the call on page load, we need a component did mount. Okay? And what component did mount does, and I'll just put a note here, this runs once when the component is mounted. Okay? So there's a life cycle here. This particular method comes with React. I didn't create it. It came with React. And it is bound. I don't have to do any of that kind of like, I don't have to do something like this. Handle, click is equal to, I don't have to do that to bind this to the app. It's already done for me. Like when you create your own custom ones that don't come part of React, you would need to do this if you wanted to reference like this dot set state, right? If I wanted to do this, I would need to bind it. This doesn't need to be bound. It's a default, just like render is already bound. We don't have to do that, okay? So in here, we want to make the API call. So making the API call requires that we do a fetch, right? Fetch. And now I need that URL. So I'm going to go back to my thing. I'm going to grab my URL. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to paste my URL. It's a pretty long URL, right? And so I have the URL, and what you'll see here is, does anyone know what the question mark represents? What's the question mark called in these URLs? I know some of you mentioned like having worked with RESTful APIs. Does anyone know what the question mark is called?
It's a query variable.
What's that?
Query variable.
Yeah, it's a query string. And so the query string allows you to send kind of key value pairs. In this case, API key is equal to that. And the limit is 25 and the rating is G. Just remember that these values that are in the query string could be passed if we were collecting the information as a form, could be passed within the body too, if the API supports it. Okay, so when I'm teaching express routing or Rails routing, server-based routing, we show both ways, doing query strings and capturing it and sending it as the body, and then we could parse the body for that data. So we have it. We need our dot then, right? Hey, when you get the data, then do the thing. All right, well, then, boom, response, fat arrow, response.json, which means we're converting it into JSON. Cool. I'm going to go dot then. All right, data, because we're getting the data, right? Data. And then I'm going to console log data. I just want to see what I got. Console log. This is data. I just want to see. Did I get data? Did I not get data? I always like to just test it out. I go to developer tools, and here we go. I'm getting a bunch of errors here. Did I do something wrong? I'm going to get rid of these errors, and I'm going to refresh just to see if I mistyped something. It was just a mistype. Yeah. See, I got the data. I always clear out the errors because the errors could have been old. The errors might get all in the way of me actually seeing the thing, right? So I see here, data. All right, so sometimes, I have to be honest, sometimes when you're choosing the naming convention for here, data is the thing, and then data has a key called data. So sometimes using data isn't the best, because now if I really want to see the data array of things, I have to do data dot data. And that's like, why would you do data dot data? It seems like kind of redundant, right? So I might change this to just be something more like, I don't know, Giphy, and then do Giphy dot data. Giphy dot data. Right? I don't like seeing data dot data. Drives me crazy. I have an array of 25 GIFs. 25 of them, people. We can go crazy if we want with GIFs. I hate GIFs, by the way. They drive me crazy. When people post them in Slack, don't post them in Slack because they drive me crazy. They just take up space. So now that we have them, I know the things that we want are going to be like the URL. I think there's a bunch of information in here we could use. There's URLs. There's images here, there's stickers, there's memes of them, right? Trending, deadline, whatever. So what we need to do now is, now that we have it, we have to update state, right? Now, I don't have anything in here that references my little Giphies, right? So the first thing I would do is maybe go to state and say, I don't know, Giphies, right? And I'll set that to an empty array because I'm going to push an array of things in there at some point in time, right? So let's go ahead and in our fetch. Now, here's the thing. Like, we made the call. We have the data's here. And so we have to, as of right now, make the call for update state in here. So I am going to create a code block here so I can have multiple lines. And it's in here that I'm going to update the state. I'm going to say this dot set state. I don't necessarily need prev state here. Once again, I just kind of get you used to using prev state because you'll always know that that's the construct if you keep typing like that. But we don't necessarily need it in this instance, right? I've got rid of prev state and just passed in an object. I'm just going to leave it. Prev state, and now we say Giphies, right? Giphies is Giphy dot data, right? That's really it. Giphy's is Giphy's dot data, okay? Now that we know that we've done this, how do we know that it's in state? I mean, nothing's happened. I don't really see anything. I know that I've updated state, but I also have to change is loading. So is loading, this actually should be true, right? Shouldn't have been false, it should be true. And now, is loading should be false, right? If I loaded everything, everything should be just hunky-dory. I want to see at least a GIF. Like, that's really all I'm interested. Can I see at least one GIF? All right, so I'm going to go to my render, and my render just has some, you know, cheesy H1, H2, nothing really fantastic there. But I want to test out and see if I had a loading screen. Now, we can test this out by putting in our conditional logic, right? So let's add some conditional logic, right? And so we will say if, once again, if state dot is loading, if this dot state dot is loading, if that's true, we will render, no, we will return, I don't know, a div that says loading. Once again, same thing, right? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to force this thing to error out. Like, I can comment out the whole fetch call, and we'll get is loading, and it'll stay there as long as we want, right? Nothing's happening because I commented out the code, so we're in a perpetual state of is loading. All right, if I go back, loading disappears, and I get back the original data here, right? One thing with the fetch also that I didn't cover last time is that what if we had an error with fetch? What if something broke? We could include a catch statement here, and catch, you know, we could just console log this is error and see the error. You have to understand, like, maybe that thing is just not going to be working, and I may want to tell the user, like, URL not responding, right? Something like that, whatever it is. It's obviously working, so this is going to work. But if I trip this up, right? What if I get rid of all of this and I put an API 1 here, right? I mess up the URL. Oh, look, Giphy1, no, this is error, type error, failed to fetch. So I could run conditional logic like if error is equal to failed to fetch, then I knew I didn't get the thing, right? The thing is down, and I should have something to, like, tell the user. API having issues or something, show something on the screen. So we could do something like that. I'm not really concerned with this right now. This is just about kind of making the API call. And now that we have the API call, you can do whatever you want, right? I have Giphy, use Giphy to pull some GIFs, and I could just put an image tag here. I could do source is equal to, I'm just going to close the image tag and do, I don't know, this dot state dot Giphy's. I'm just going to grab the first one. Giphy's bracket 0. I don't know, is it dot URL? I'd have to parse through the data to see what it is again, because I'm not really sure what the thing is. Let me see if I.
Giphy's.
Did I misspell it?
Yep.
Oh, that's right. Giphy's. All right. Did we get it, or did it still error out? Can I see my Giphy? I see a little thing, but I'm not seeing the actual thing, right? I know it's trying to put something there. So I'm going to go, here's my data. Here it is. Oh, you know what it is? It's not Giphy.url, it's bit.ly URL or Giphy URL. That's the syntax. I'm going to try this bit.ly underscore URL, and let's see if that works. Does it? No, still doesn't work. Why is that? Should have worked. I grab the first one, and I grab the URL, source, bit.ly URL.
Isn't it embedded URL? There was on everyone.
Which one? This one?
Yeah.
Oh, we can try that one. Yeah. You want to try that? Did you try it?
No.
Okay. Yeah, not really sure. Now I'm getting cross origin and won't allow me to do that one. I was just working with this earlier and I could have sworn it was this. Let me try this one more time.
There's an images object inside, and inside of that, there's a bunch of like different sizes.
Okay, there's an images. Yeah, here's images, but we still should be able to, because these are just images. At this point in time, they're not GIFs. Like if I go to this site right here, if I grab this, I just open that up, right? I should see a GIF. Like it should take me to something. Yeah. So we should see that. I'm just surprised it's not. I was testing this out earlier, and I don't see why it wouldn't let me see that. This must have a problem. I wonder if I have to do this.
I just tried it, and I think it's your array. You should.
Oh, what's up with my array? Did I misspell it? Giphies data. Giphy data.
Oh, mine's is working, but I didn't have the zero array. I just did the Giphies dot whatever the image was.
You did this?
Yeah, okay, but yeah, I guess I'm pulling it probably differently.
Okay,
Yours,
it could be.
but,
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like maybe if I said, because I know this is an array of things, right? It's 25 things. When I console log, so if I put Giphies in here, I have an array of 25 things, and I should, based on that, I should see the 25 things. I'm not sure. Let me see what this error is. I have an alt. Let's have an alt prop. Oh, alt. I was putting name alt. Yeah. So I truly believe this should be 0. I should be able to get the first thing and then see this. So I'm not really sure why it's not working. Giphies. Yeah, I don't have dual. You tell me, you see anything? Can't really tell. Should work.
Warning makes it look like Chrome is blocking it.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that's it. It's saying cannot breed cross origin. Maybe that's it, right?
I had this issue yesterday, same thing, and I think it was Chrome.
Yeah. So block cross origin HTTP request with MIME type. Yeah. Of course. So you know what? Maybe we will just, instead of doing that, we'll go with the image. Just because. So I'm just going to go, I would have to go images, right? So here it would be images. I just want something, right? At this point in time, URL. Images, let me see, images here. Let me see, fixed height, small, so many of them. Preview, how about that? Dot preview. Okay, here we go. Images dot preview.
You're going to need .mp4.
Preview.mp4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nope. This is annoying.
So you don't have a closing curly brace.
Oh! Yes. Dot preview. All right. Do I need the MP4? I guess I do. Huh. Does it? No. All right. I don't know why. Kind of crazy. Not working. We know we're getting the data. I just don't know why it's not doing it. I mean, I could just put out some text. I know that would work, right? Maybe it's like slug or source. That was just to put out some text. I bet you I could put the title, right? So let me just do this. I don't know, H3. I just want to put something else out right now. So if I was to do this, copy, boom, maybe dot title. Just give me something.
You need your curly braces.
Ah, Jesus. Here we go. Just give me.
Title, not tile.
Oh. Ah! All right. Yeah. Yeah, Gustavo. Yeah. All right. So, all right. The whole lesson here is about getting the key, really. That's kind of where it is. And also parsing the data. We could have, if we wanted to, done something like this also. So say we wanted to do a, get Giphy, I'm going to do this, get Giphy titles, right? Okay, so get Giphy titles, is equal to that, right? Okay. What if I did this? I said, let's all titles equal to this dot state dot giphies dot map di. Okay, and we could return here, right? I could just return here an H3 or an H2. Doesn't really matter, right? H2, and inside of our H2, oh my God. There we go. I'm going to do an H3. There we go. We could return D dots, what was it? D dot title, right? All right, that was easy enough. D dot title. Okay. And then we could return all titles. Okay? Now, if I want to call this, all I have to do is go down here. Let me just get rid of all this. This is so annoying. I'm going to do this. This dots, what do I call it? Get Giphy titles. Boop. Watch this. And, oh, why is it not working? Function have a valid child's get Giphy titles, right? This dot get Giphy titles should have worked. Function not valid child. Alone instead. I'm surprised that didn't work. Functions are not valid as React child.
You didn't do the parentheses for get Giphy titles. No, down when you're in.
To call it, yeah. There we go. Oof. All right, so now I'm just seeing d.title because here I didn't put curly braces. Wow, I think I'm just trying to rush through. All right, don't rush, take your time. That's the lesson I'm trying to teach myself. All right. So what I wanted to just show you is the fact that we have 20 or 25 of them, I could construct some HTML in a method and then just call that method later on, okay? If it's just one, you don't really need to do it. I could have moved this down here. Like this could also have been done in render. Like I could have put it here, and instead of doing this, I could have just said something like all titles. That should work too, okay? But I don't really want to do that, okay? I prefer to keep my render function as clean as possible, okay? Good that. Now we're back, okay? We're good? All right. Lab time. All right, so your lab is to, all right. Your lab is going to do it with Open Weather app, the Open Weather app. So you're going to pull Open Weather data, which means you have to register for a key. So you have to go to the site, work through registering for a key. It'll have you log in, and then you'll register. So if I go to sign up for an app ID here, I just go to the site, it'll take me and it walks me through the 3 simple steps of getting the app ID. Easy enough. You'll walk through it. Here's the construct that you're going to want to use. It'll give you the ID and you'll get a key, and your key will go here. See where I say replace your key? Okay. This has a zip code because you're going to be requesting a zip. You're going to input a zip and it's going to get you the weather for that zip. And the units are imperial. If you don't do that, it sends like the temperature as Kelvin or something. It's pretty crazy. I don't see why it does that. What I want you to do is implement the functionality here on this particular site. See this? Pretty cool looking weather app. If I type in my zip 11373 and I hit enter, I get the weather for where I'm at. I'm in Elmhurst, New York, right? I don't know, 10020. I'm just making up zips now. I don't really know wherever that is, right? So what happens is we get the weather. All I really want you to do is get an API key, make a call, and show it just at a minimum that. I'm not asking for like the forecast here. I'm not asking you to like get all this data. I'm not asking for that. I just want this. You can do that The other stuff you could easily do. That would just take time parsing through. And I don't really, this isn't about parsing, this is about making API calls. Now, the starter code that I have is this. Here's the starter code. I'll slack out the starter code. All right, so I'm getting you started. If I go to the components, it's one component. That's all I have. One component. I'm already capturing the data. Look, I got a handle change event. I've attached the handle change to the inputs. I didn't attach a submit. So here's a submit. So here's the form. So you know what? Maybe I will do that. On submits, you will call this dot handle submit. Okay. Now you just have to, like, on handle submit, you got to make the call, right? That's where you have to go to make the call. Okay. This is already doing it. It's already updating state with the zip. Whatever I type in here, 11373, it'll refresh the page because I don't have e dot, and we want to put e here, right? E dot prevent default. Okay. So now nothing flashes. I just have to hit enter. I don't have to click on the go button really because it's a submit. So your job is to get the key. In component did now make the initial call to get the zip code of your choice, whatever it is. I want you to get used to using component did mount, and then update the state with a default call. I want to make sure you understand what it's like to at least make a call for your own zip code, and then make a second call to get whatever zip code is typed in. Okay, and you're going to be using that URL that I provided. This URL right here is what you would be doing. Okay. All you need to do is put in your key and put in the zip here of your choice. Okay? That's really it. And all I want you to do is just update the weather. It's going to give you back an object. You have to parse through the object. All I want you to do is the weather. I don't care about the color. I don't care about the sun. I'm not really interested in all that. But if you are interested in, like, changing the icon, those icons are coming from this flowers weathers icon thing, and you can figure it out. You got time, figure it out. We go with that? All right.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
Can you give Stephen and I a zip code because we're in Australia now?
Oh, yeah. All right. So 11373, that's New York. And I made up, who else? Anybody else out there? Who's in, like, DC? Who's in DC? What's the DC zip code?
20020.
There you go. You guys are pretty cold up there now, too. Who's in San Diego again, or San Francisco? Connor? There we go. Sweet. 3 zip codes, Joey. 3 zip codes. Boston. Everyone's cold. Who's in San Francisco again, right? Mega? Is Mega there? Right? What's the zip code out there? 94560. There we go. Got zipped.
Yeah, it's more Newark, like it's SF Bay Area, but it's not exactly like San Francisco.
Okay. That's good
Yeah.
enough.
Okay.
I don't think the temperature's going to change too much. You're probably just as cold as it is out in New York. So.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to give you time to work on that. It is 8:47. So I'm going to say this is probably going to take, I would say, an estimated time. I don't know. Connor, how long do you think it's going to take? What you got?
13 minutes.
13 minutes? that's crazy. I don't know.
Bring us right to 9.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm going to give you like 25 minutes. I think it's going to take about 20 minutes.
All right.
And that break. Like, I'm going to throw the break in there. So I'm going to say, let's go to take a break, work on it. I'll put you into breakout rooms. But let's say I'll pull you back or query about 9:10, about 9:20. 9:20, I'm going to query everybody because we're at 9:50, 10-minute break. Cool? So I will say break time along with lab time. I'm going to put you in a breakout rooms, and I'll reach out at 9:20 to get a feel, right? How everyone is doing. All right. Boom. You're done. I'll slack out this So you have it, but it's also in the Trello board. You can go to the Trello board. If you just need a reminder where the Trello board is, there's a Trello board. And if you just go to the open weather one, it's right here. There's also a README file, but the README file isn't really, takes you to open weather right here. Maybe you do need to go there. Open weather, how to do a fetch. This isn't what you're building necessarily, the other one. And it just walks you through some of the requirements. Cool? All right, you're off. I will put you into breakout rooms now. And once again, you can kind of do what you want to do. And if you need us, just reach out. Me and Abdul are here. Just say, Abdul, Joe, can you help me out? And we will come help you out. My co-host. All right, here we go. Breakout rooms come in right now. There you go. Jump in. Yep. There we go. Everyone looks good. Everyone's in a breakout room. There we go. All right. Thanks, June. So now that I have the zip, and I'm going to type in the zip, 11373. That works. What was some of the other zip codes? Let me see again what we had up here. We had what was some 94560, right? 94560. Look, there's Newark. That works. 02128. That works, right? Okay. Here we go. Megan wants us to do, let's see what the weather is in 06613. Chicago. There we go. Okay. Do we see how that works? I don't need to do in the handle submit. I don't have to change is loading to false. Once again, because I already have data on the screen. So unless if this errors out, I won't get anything anyway. This then will never happen, only if it's a successful thing, right? If it's unsuccessful, I will go to the catch and then I will deal with whatever the error is. Like I'll console log the error, show the error on the screen. Okay. Cool. All right, Gustavo, I see you spent some time with the HTTPS.
Yeah, you get an error or a warning if you don't put the S.
Got it. Okay.
Any API call, it seems.
So I did. I mean, I provided the URL here also. So I don't know. Was it different in the?
I did not see that, and I spent a good amount of time finding the right API call, and then I spent even longer because I have weird units in the 300s and 400s for all temperatures. I just
okay. Yeah, next time reach out. Slack that out because I did share. I think I did Slack the URL out itself. Let me see. Did I Slack the whole URL out? I thought I Slacked the whole URL out too, but maybe I didn't. I didn't show it. Yeah. Okay. I try to make this as easy as possible. Like try to figure out where things might be a pain point. I forgot about the whole binding thing when I was putting this thing together. That was my bad. How do we feel about this though? Does it seem like it makes sense? Do we have any like questions about what I just did and where you might have got tripped over?
Joe, can you scroll down to the main body of the HTML again? Because I'm getting an error and I'm not sure why. Thank you.
Okay. And this is a span. I'm going to go to the next line. This is a span. That's a span. Like I want to see everything. I don't like when it goes all the way off the screen. It drives me crazy. All right. Just going to make sure it looks good. Yeah.
Why is zip covered in brackets in change and handle change?
Here?
Nope, this is submit.
Handle change.
Yeah. In your set state, you've got zip in brackets.
So if you go back to the form, right? If we go back to the login form, let me just quickly open up the login form, and I'll show you why that's kind of happening. Here we go, login form, because we did do it with the login form. I think it was in the form right here. Do you see how we did the same thing here in brackets? So, I mean, that doesn't answer your question, Gustavo. That just gives you another example of the same thing. So the thing is here, I have two forms here, right? I have Joe, and then I have password, right? Two things, and only one method is handling both of those, right? So how does it know to target username or password when you type in? Okay, so let's take a look. I'm doing the same deconstruction right here. Name and value is equal to e.target. So the target has a key of name and a key of value. Let's go down to the target. If I go down to the input and I see name, it says username. If I see name over here, it says password. Now those two values correspond to these two keys. In ES6, if I elicit out the name, so this is name and that's value, they both return corresponding username or password, depending on which one of these boxes I'm typing in, right? Because handle change input is going to be active for only one of those inputs at either time. I can't be active for both of them simultaneously because you can only type in a character and then move to another, right? So when I do that, this returns back the name of it. If I'm in username, it returns back username. So then I just put username in there, and it knows that's the key because it's a variable. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do username, right? And then do this. Putting it in brackets tells it to find a key here that has name.
Understood. But you only have zip, and you're calling your variable zip.
Okay, let me go back. Where is... Did I get rid of it? All right, here we go. Okay. Well, I'm eliciting the ID out of zip. See here I'm saying, get me the ID. Oh, because I'm calling it zip. I could have done something like this, I think, right? This is just going to return back the value stored in ID. What's the value stored in ID?
Zip.
Zip. It's the same concept. You see what I'm saying? So instead of me doing just writing zip, I left it like this to show you that in action, right? I mean, it makes more sense in the form, but I wanted you to see like, hey, if you wrote it like this, what is that doing? It's doing the same thing the other thing did. I'm just storing a value inside of a variable and then using this construct to do it, okay? So I'm glad I did it. I'm glad you asked the question so that you can see like where it really makes sense to use it. And here I just used it so you could see it in action again. Really, that was my goal, okay? How else do we feel? We feel any other questions? Okay.
Just a quick thing, that HTTPS thing that didn't work, it's happening because you're making a request from an HTTPS page, which is secure. So any request to HTTP will be considered insecure, thus going to get blocked.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's why the Giphy wasn't working.
I think so, but you know what? Here, I did get Giphy working with just the images. I didn't get him working with the, I did get it working with the URL. And so if I go to developer tools here, just to see, here's the array of data. There's the array of data. It's going to refresh this page. Just to show you, it did work, and I don't think the URL was HTTPS. Maybe it was. I don't think it was. If I go here, I went to images, and I went to one of these images. I forgot which one of the images. Oh, they are HTTPS. All right, yeah, that was it. That was it. If I was right. Cool. Open weather. The next thing, I'm going to try to get us to the Google, pulling the Google Sheet. I don't know if we are, because it's going to be 9:40. I have one more thing to show you here to prepare you for the homework, okay? Now, we're working with keys, right? do you want your key available to anybody, right? Should you be pushing your key up to GitHub, essentially, is kind of the question here. You should never be pushing these keys. I mean, I gave you my key, and you can use it. If it stops working, I'll just go online and like sign up for another key. But if it was a key that I was like paying for and it had some value, I wouldn't necessarily want to push it up. Now, the fact that we're using these code sandboxes, in the code sandbox, I can hide this sandbox so no one could ever see it, okay? So at any point in time, I could go to like the sandbox info and then just change this to be private, and you would never ever be able to see this code pen. I'm sorry, this code sandbox, right? The fact that it's public means anybody can see it, okay? And I don't maybe want everybody to see it, but it is here. They could see it. So if you're using GitHub and you don't want to push up the key, because they're going to walk you through this in the homework. It's part of the homework, so I want to make sure you understand what's going to happen here, is that we need to hide the key. Now, in order to do that, we kind of need to load the key up into like the global space when we push our application up, and it needs to reference that key, okay? So we can do that. We can store the key in a specific file. So I'm going to install something. I'm going to add a dependency here, okay? That dependency is going to be called .env. It's a .env package. And the package will allow us to store our keys or private passwords in a file that will never get pushed up to GitHub. We'll tell GitHub to ignore it. Once again, we're not emulating that right now. We're not going to do that, but we're emulating that. So I'm going to say .env. I'm going to install the package. So here's the package right now. It's been installed. Nothing really happens. There's no magic right now. In order to use the package, like all packages, I have to import .env from .env. Okay, so I'm importing .env. You can also import, sometimes I just call it env. Doesn't really matter, like what you call it. Now here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do .env.config. And by doing the config, so this imports, obviously this imports, and this I'm going to say, initializes the .env package. Okay, so now we can use it. Now this package, I'm going to put here, the package is looking for a .env file. It's looking for a file that's .env. Once it finds that file, it's going to pull out all of that kind of information that you need, and then make that available in the global namespace of wherever this thing is being pulled from. Maybe not the global namespace, but at least in this file, it would have access to it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a .env file. Okay, now that we're here, I'm going to go to the source, because usually it's probably going to be at the source that this gets created. So I'm going to say .env. Does anyone know what the dot does? Somebody out there that knows what the dot does.
Hidden file?
Yeah, it's a hidden file. It's Unix. It's a hidden file. Dot just means if I do a ls looking for it, I won't find it. Won't be there. Okay? So in our hidden file, I'm going to create, now this is very React specific. In a normal env file, we wouldn't have to proceed with these words, but we have to do it because it's React. So I have to say React_app. Have to say that. Now the rest of it, you could give it whatever you want. So I'm going to say, open API_key. And that key is going to be equal to whatever the key was that I gave you. So I'm going to go find my key again. I forgot what my key is. All right, I'm going to go get my key. Here is my key right here. I'm going to grab that key. There we go. I'm going to go back to my env file. I'm going to paste it. There's my key. Okay. So now that I have the key stored there, I want to use it. So if I go back into app, bloop, I should have access to that key. Okay, the key should be available and I should get access to it. Now, how do I get access to it? So let's do this. Now that I'm here, I'm going to do maybe this component did mount. Let me try just doing it in here. I just want to see if we have access to it. So I'm going to say console.log. Okay, this is my key. When it loads it, it stores it in something called process. And this is a node thing, process.env, environmental variables. That's kind of what this stands for. And then I'm going to say React underscore app underscore API underscore key. Okay?
You have an X in React.
Yeah, I do. Get rid of that. All right. Now let me see if the key is console logged. If I see the key, oh, don't tell me this thing. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm just going to save it and let me refresh it and see. Does I get the key? Cannot add no 55 because the ID already is in the store. This is my key. All right, so it's telling me that my key is undefined. It's undefined. I'm an app. Let me just make sure I'm doing this right here. API process DMV .NET config env. This should have pulled in my key. .NET config initializes it. Here's my key. Let me go back to app. We did this. Okay. It says undefined. I'm going to try to do just process.env. I want to see if this works. Process.env development. It's just giving me process.env development. It's not loading the key. All right, so let me see. Is it in source? Maybe because I put it in source. That's why. I think I have to move it one level higher. So let me move this key out of here. All right, there we go. I'm going to load it one level higher than source. Should be right there. Okay. Now, all right, I had it in the wrong spot. Do you see now I have access to the key? React API key. Okay. I'm going to go back to source. It has to be at the root of the application. You can't nest it in these files. It's looking in the root. So when you initialize this thing, it's going to look inside. It's going to looking for it even at the root. Okay. env file at the root of the app. Okay. That's what this will do. Look at the root. Found it. Now I have my API key. I know that it works. I know that this is my API key. And now instead of saying API key here, I could replace this key with process.env.react, what is the app underscore API underscore key. Okay? So if I do that, it should work. I'm getting the temperature again. I did it in handle submit. So let's see. If I do an handle submit, 20020, I'm just making, oh, you got to do it right. Let me see. Let's test this out. And let's do Megan's again. 60613, and it works. Okay, I want to just make sure everything works, and that's because it's still right here, right? The homework is going to walk you through that. So I wanted you to at least see it so you're not like completely puzzled as to why. Now, the main reason of doing that is once again so your key doesn't get pushed up to GitHub. There is a file that we could create called gitignore. I'm sure, has anyone heard of gitignore? Use gitignore. If you push up stuff to GitHub, gitignore says don't push these particular files up to Git. I don't want them ever to go up to Git. Every time I push, don't push these specific things. If I'm working in Node, there's certain Node things I wouldn't want to push up, like Node packages don't get pushed up. So there's certain things, keys and private information you never want to make it to the web because your GitHub repos are public and free and everyone can see them, right? This is just one way to protect yourself from that ever happening, okay? And in more advanced apps like creating secret keys for passwords, that's where you would store them, okay? Now, we don't have time to do the Google Sheets thing, which I'll try to do next class. That was also just kind of bonus anyway. That was just me being like, hey, this would be a really cool thing. We can always do that. What I wanted to do, because we do have some time, is to walk you through the, I'll do it with, do I have the open weather? Here's the login form. I don't need the login form. I was going to do it with the Giphy one, but I could do it with this fetch here. What I wanted to do is walk you through the async and await, okay? The async and await. Now, I'm going to get rid of, actually, I'll just go back to weather and do this here because it's annoying. This construct right here is kind of a little bit of annoying because I need to do everything in this then. So because JavaScript is asynchronous, I could run this line of code, but if I was to have another line of code right here, if I said console log, this is after fetch, this line of code, this would run, well, prevent default would run, this would get kicked off, but by the time this thing finished, this line of code would run, right? So this whole sequence of events is kind of offset by the fact that JavaScript's asynchronous, this is running a promise, and it's taking a while longer to run, so this line of code runs. Okay, that's the sequence of things, okay? And so what we want to do is kind of create our own synchronicity. We want to create this sense of synchronous, running this thing synchronous. Now, in order to do that, we have to use async and await to do that. The function, so async, the async portion, so if we were to just talk about async, and then await, okay? Async needs to be assigned to the actual function, okay? So when I run the function, I would have to say something like async. I would have to do something like this, okay? Now, let's just see that this works. I just added one keyword and nothing really like 11373, like nothing broke, like, I don't know, 60613, right? Oh, did it? I break this? Oh, it's sync, right? That's it, okay. 60613. All right, it works, right? I didn't break anything yet. I just added a keyword. How can I use, now that the function is async, means the function will run the lines of code asynchronously, but they're kind of going to act like they're synchronously. Now watch this. This is what I mean. I'm going to refactor this code a little bit. I am going to get rid of this catch. We don't need this catch right now. I'm just going to comment this out so I can refactor the code in the way that we want to refactor it. So I'm going to say const response is equal to the fetch call. So const response is equal to fetch await the fetch call. And so right now I'm just going to grab this fetch, undo it, copy it, put it right there. Okay, and I'm going to comment this back out. Okay. What I'm going to say is wait for this fetch call to finish. Don't do anything. Don't go to the next line of code. Wait until this thing finishes. And that's what the await keyword says. It says you are not allowed to go to the next line of code until this thing is resolved. Okay. So I'm going to say const JSON is equal to await the response, and then we'll convert it to JSON. Now I have a JSON object to work with, okay? Now that I have a JSON object, I can run state. I can go here, I'm just going to copy it, and now I can run this .state, and instead of data, I could just put JSON. Well, once again, if I went back here, maybe I would have changed data to JSON. Now that I've done this, I just want to make sure that it works. All right, 60613, and it works, okay? So what happens with async and await is async forces the function, and async needs to be assigned to the function. Okay? That's where you assign it. You assign it to a function. And then within the function, you can use the keyword await. Okay? Now, if I remove async, watch what'll happen. I'm going to get an error, and I'm already getting an error, and the error is going to be specific to, like, you can only use async. Let me see. Is it going to give me the error? Service. I'm going to stop this. Let me just kick it off again. Okay, I want you to see what the error is. Cannot use keyword await outside of an async function. That's the error that you're going to get. Okay, I'm just going to put that error here. Cannot use the keyword await outside of an async function. If you don't have async here, it won't work. Okay? Now, I have async here, and I'm running it here. Where's the other place that we're making the call? In component did mount, right? Where can I place the async keyword here? Anyone have ideas?
This is just a guess, but is it before component did mount?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Async would go before the function. Now, I did it up here before the function because where is the function? This is the function, right? That's the callback function. That's not a callback. That's an anonymous function. And so I put the async keyword before the anonymous function. This function has a name, and I'm just putting it before the name of the function. Okay? And so the same construct would be here. I mean, I could copy, probably literally copy all this code, right? If I copied this code here, and I went down here, right? And I'm just going to do this. Let's just make sure it works, right? I think the only thing I need to do is to change is loading. So I'm going to go here. I'll go here. I'll get rid of this zip here. And we will do is loading false. Let's see what we got. Now it works, right? Thing starts up. That is the magic of async and await. When we do our API calls, this is how I'm going to be writing them from now on versus this. And I'm not going to say it's the older way, but it is. You know, when async and await came out, it was the, hey, now I can parse this. I think someone had asked a question. I think Mega, maybe it was you. You had asked a question about how do you do nested fetch calls? Was that you? Somebody asked in the exit ticket feedback, how do you do nested? Maybe Ramona, was that you? Ramona, yeah. How do you do nested fetch calls? Well, if I can do this and I can get a response, then I could do another fetch call. I could say, you know, const response 2 is equal to another fetch call, right? And then I do some sort of fetch call here, and I pass it whatever values were being returned that I want to use in the next fetch call, right? This would be the sequence of events. And so this call could have pulled data from here and then went someplace else, like get a list of stocks, and then I just get the stock thing, and then I can go to another side and like grab more information about the stock, something like that. That's how you would do that. If you were doing it this way, well, then I'd have to go into the second then and run the fetch call. And that gets really ugly really quickly. Having nested fetch calls in these callbacks get really crazy and hairy, and no one likes that. No one does.
Joe, I have a question. So is this like, you know, you can use async and await as opposed to set timeout? Like, you know,
no, they're two different things. Like set timeout is to wait a particular period of time for something to happen. So if I put the set timeout between the, I wrap the fetch and I put a console log here and a console log here, you would see the console log, then this console log would be executed because we're waiting for the set timeout to execute. This is kind of doing that, like this fetch call here is kind of doing that, like a set timeout, but it's not because I don't know how long it's going to take to get the data. Could take a second, could take 10 seconds, could take a minute. I have no idea how long the server might take to respond to it, okay? And I did have the article in there. I did, in the homework, I did have this async and await article. So just, read the article. Has some really cool info in there. That's pretty much it. All right, we're at 10. I'm just going to go over the homework real quick. Part 4 of the homework is for you to get a TMDB API key. That's why we did these keys. Setup here, this whole setup was the whole .env thing. It's a whole .env thing, okay? So just walk through that. You have a working example, and you should be able to kind of work through that now. Add a link to the code, the spreadsheets. Here is a working example of what it should look like, but it's hidden. I hid the code pen. Oh, what happened? Did I break this thing already? Look at this. This thing was just working just a minute ago. I swear. All right. I don't know what happened there. I think I broke it. Yeah. All right. So it doesn't work. Basically, what would happen is I would see, if I clicked on the movie, I'd see it there. I don't know what I did. I think this whole move to queue thing, I think I was tweaking it just before I broke it. But you're going to see the movie right here. Okay, so when you click on it, you can actually see the movie on the right-hand side. And so you're going to go get all the movies, and you'll see the movies. And so in the components, if I go to app, you're going to see that I'm making a call in component did mount to get a bunch of new movies. Okay, and I'm storing those movies up here, and then you're going to render those movies down here using conditional logic too. I think there's some conditional logic down here. No, there's no conditional logic. I just overwrite this. This is so that it works, and then I overwrite it. So you quickly see the old movies and the new movies. Cool. All right. Good. All right. I was trying to give you a bit more lab time, a bit more coding. So hopefully that panned out. All right. If you have any issues, what's that? All right. Nobody? Okay. Thought somebody said something. I will get this fixed, and I will post the solution to Films Part 4 in like Monday. So struggle over the weekend. If you can't get it, I will Slack that out so you have a reference, because I really don't want you like not being able to do it. I'd rather you see the solution and kind of work through what you've gotten to that point versus not getting it until Tuesday. Okay, so I'll be slacking out the solution. I'll let everyone know. They'll be in the spreadsheet. Okay. Sweet. Just exit tickets. You just take a moment and give me some exit tickets. I know I'm getting a handful, not the whole class. Not everyone's filling out an exit ticket. So you could just quickly give me an exit ticket. Only take like a minute of your time. I'd appreciate it. And I will see everyone Tuesday. Cool? All right. See you later.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Bye.